So welcome everyone to this again to this webinar on ways of organizing code for testers, and it's been done by Raneesh Choudhary, who is the lead QA at Adobe. We're doing this in collaboration with BrowserStack. Huge shout out to our sponsor BrowserStack. They are our exclusive sponsor for all our community events and pretty much sponsor for all our conferences. It's due to companies like BrowserStack that we are able to do all these community events in such a number for free for all community members. Like somebody pointed out, we're doing this conference called Convex. It's themed on future of testing, and it's happening on 28th April from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. or 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. onwards. So feel free to enroll. This is a free conference. There's a bunch of interesting topics on AI, securing AI, on AR, VR, and a bunch of other things. Like I mentioned, we're doing a workshop on design pattern for testers. We have last and limited seats. There's exclusive offer of 25%, which our team will share in the chat, which is only open till today. So please feel free to register. 25 plus people are already registered for this workshop with Raneesh only. So understand this session, and if you feel like learning more about this topic, enroll for this workshop. About Raneesh, Raneesh is a dear friend, and he works at Adobe right now. Previous to that, he has worked for companies like OLX Globant, and he's a passionate software tester who wants to make an impact in testing, not just through his work but through also his teachings. He's a regular member at our NCR meetups, and he's also recorded a course on Appium with us. And now he's doing a workshop with us next weekend on design pattern for testers. So all in all, he's a lot involved with us in learning, and it's a great chance to learn ways of organizing code for testers through from him. So with that, let me welcome Raneesh on stage.
Hey, hi Ashutosh. Hi everyone. Yeah, thank you again for inviting me, Ashutosh.
Are you comfortable? We can start.
Yes, we can definitely start.
I'll hide myself from stage, Anish, and I'll keep myself on backstage.
Okay.
I'll have a look at the session, folks. If you have a question, please feel free to use the Q&A tab for the questions. Typically, we'll take the questions in the end, but if there are questions which stop your which is hindering your learning progress in between, I will take them in between also. But in general, I'll take the questions in the end.
I'll just quickly give a brief why I selected this topic. So I think that we are having many different topics to learn in testing today, and everyone is sharing what is the latest trend and what is going on in testing and all those things. So for me, as I worked through my years of experience into testing, so uh, I'll be completing 8 years in testing industry. So I've seen that this topic, design patterns, has not been given enough importance, because we testers, we think coding is not much important part of testing activities, and we do not need to dive too much into coding, so that it can help in our testing and all those things. So this is a topic that I've used in multiple times in my projects, and I've been asked in interviews also, related to design patterns, and I also ask the same in the interviews or in the sessions that are there. So with this, I've just prepared some words that come into my mind when I think of testing, like bug, release, test automation, flaky. Okay, so the whole webinar, what I've planned is I'll be just sliding through this Miro board, and I've prepared some stuff here. So we'll be just seeing these graphics one by one, and so it will be just like a freestyle going on, and I'll be interacting with you in the middle so that we can also have some interactive session. Okay, let's move forward. So something about me. I like to watch memes. I like watching anime. I play video games, ride bike, badminton. Around 60% of stuff I do is this, and only 40% I do coding plus testing. And currently, I'm working as lead QA at Adobe. The rest you can check out my profile on LinkedIn. You'll get to know more. Okay, a quick question for the audience. I want to know what is the testing activity that you did today. Could you just comment in the chat so we just have a rough idea what we as testers doing in our project works. Okay, Pooja says script development, writing test cases. Sagar, front end and back end compliance activities. Okay, reviewing user stories, using chat gpt to create test scripts. That's interesting as AI is getting used more. Test design, manual testing, refactoring code, functional and automation, text test execution on iOS, regression suite, functional testing. Okay, integrating Docker. Okay, some stuff on the CI/CD side. That's great. Creating utility to generate automated test cases. That's also interesting. Okay, Yogesh has mentioned. Thanks for that. And pre-deployment testing, script development. Okay, and Dharmin says he was off today. Okay, so let me just move on to the next slide. Yeah. So what we see is that the responsibilities of a tester is now getting increased, and we are seeing that we are either writing test cases, we are doing bug investigation, we are doing test case creation or automation, doing some accessibility, some security testing, and performance or on the CI/CD side. There are other activities also involved. I've just mentioned the ones that came into my mind. Okay, so what I want to mention here is that if you see test automation, accessibility, test data creation, CI/CD, and some tools in performance also. These all they use. Let me just stop it. Yeah, these all tools they need coding. That gets smaller. Let me increase it. Yeah. So what these all activities they require is coding, right? Even if you use some of the libraries for security testing, you'll be also needing some coding knowledge for the same. And in performance, even if you are using in some cases you are using tools like gmeter or newload, it requires less coding knowledge or less to negligible coding knowledge. Or if you are using some tool like k6, then also you need coding knowledge. So what I want to mention is that with time, uh, everyone who has been in the industry for more than 2 3 or 5 years, uh, you must have observed that our role is getting more towards where we are needing coding in our daily activities, right? Because I've seen that someone has mentioned script creation, someone has mentioned, okay, we are integrating Docker. Okay. And even nowadays, earlier Jenkins was like you configure some things and you create a job. Now you are creating the pipelines using Groovy script and all those things. So everything is requiring coding. So you cannot stay away from coding as a tester nowadays. So this is the importance that for a tester we have to learn coding, because even the jobs that are getting created in the market require you to do have some coding knowledge and the automation knowledge, right? Okay, let's move forward. Now that we understand we need coding, a quick activity here. So this is a code review activity. If you have experience of automating the uh, web websites or even mobile or API in that case, I want you to find what are the issues in this code or what can be optimized in this code. So can you just mention that in chat so that we can find, okay, what is wrong with this code or what can be optimized, because that will make us understand why what we are going to do next. Okay, I think first comment is sleep, right? This sleep here is wrong. Right? This is a hard code slip. Is a problem, right? Okay. Someone says too much before methods. Right? Here we have mentioned before methods. There are too much of these. Okay. WebDriver manager says Sagar, better way to store the URL. Right. We are storing URL here. If we are needing it in multiple test cases, it's a problem. We have to copy paste it everywhere. Okay. Values are hard coded. Driver, Chrome driver can be parameterized. Yes, again, good point. If we need to run on Firefox, it will, again, we have to do some same copy paste of the code. Okay. Rakshit says make use of POM, that is page object model. We are not using page object model. If we are using one element here, if we are needing it once again, we'll be again copy pasting the same code. Okay. Someone says use linter, rightly said. There's no white space formatting or the formatting of indentation. Right indentation is not followed of the code. That will make it less understandable and readable. Okay. Name of the method is also not self-explanatory. Right. This test2, what does it mean? What are we testing here? It is not explanatory. Okay. Thanks for the comments in the chat. They are really helpful. So what I want you to understand is there is something called to learn coding, and there's something else when we have to learn how to code better. Okay, so when we are just first learning to automate, right? We are trying to do something like this. Okay, mention the URL and driver.get. It will get, and it works. It is only important and necessary at the time we are learning, and if we are using in a real time project, then it will create a lot of issues. Okay, so that's why we need to organize our code better, because otherwise it will create a maintenance mess. And if someone, like I said, who has worked enough in the automation or have seen the automation frameworks over the years, they can just rightly see what this kind of code can cause in some months even. Okay, so the only point that I was making with this activity is we should be focusing on how we can manage our code better. Okay, so managing our code is important. So the thing is, if we don't write good code, what will happen? So I'm taking an example of a wardrobe. Okay, so I being a boy, uh, I earlier don't didn't organize my clothes in a good manner. So my clothes were like this in a Elvira. I'll just put on my shirt wherever I want, and I just took it wherever I want it from. Okay, what this causes a problem is, firstly, it creates a confusion. I do not know where my shirt is, where my pant is, right? Just take this analogy to the code. If we are not maintaining the discipline of coding, it will create a problem like this. We'll not be able to use our common methods if they are not at common place, right? It will create a delay in new onboarding. So if someone new is joining your team and they are not able to understand the code because it is messy code, then it will take them longer to get onboarded in the project and longer for them to be productive. Okay. The next is, it can also delay the debugging. Okay. So we have all faced that some issues where suppose 100 test cases are run on Jenkins and 50 are failing. Now we have to debug it. If our code is not maintained properly, it will cause debugging issues. We will try to find issues. We will be investing more time than is needed to find out the issue. Okay. The next is, will also face delay in adding the new automated cases. So the purpose of our framework, the test automation framework that we are creating, or the code that we are writing to uh, automate our test cases, the user flows. So that will be delayed, and the motive of our automation framework is to speed our testing will not be fulfilled. Okay, so the last one is increasing non-app failures. The most frustrating thing that I face whenever I'm analyzing the failures that are run on Jenkins or Bamboo or whatever CI/CD that you're following, the main frustrating point is when you debug the case and you find out it is a script issue, not an app issue, because our code should be able to find mostly app issues. Otherwise, it's wasting our time because we have to debug our own code to find out, okay, it's our script error. We have to modify our script. We are missing some weights. We have to increase the weights or things like that. So that's why it's very important for us that we write good code, because all of these things can happen. So we want to have our wardrobe cleanly maintained so that we will see, okay, what wherever anything is, we can quickly grab it from there. Okay, moving ahead. So the question is, it's good that we can manage our code, but how to achieve it? Okay, so for that, I introduce the topic of design patterns. Okay, so this design pattern topic is not new. So there were four authors who wrote a book in 1994, and what they did is they had multiple years of experience in their programming careers. Okay, so they solved their programming problems with some certain patterns. So four of them came together. They wrote a book so that it can be used by the fellow engineers in their projects to solve their problems, and it is relevant today itself. Till today it's relevant, and it will be relevant because it's the way how we can organize and maintain our code, how we can organize objects in a object oriented systems and things like that. Okay, so along with this, so this is called GOF pattern, that is gang of four patterns. So I mentioned four authors, they wrote a book on design patterns. Okay, so some of the pattern that you have heard: singleton, factory, builder, abstract factory, and facade. Okay, so they are GUF patterns that were discussed. So there are around 23 patterns that were discussed in the book, and I'm just mentioning here these because they are some way popular, and I've also seen their implementation in some test automation frameworks. Okay, apart from that, what we have observed, and someone mentioned in the chat also, from page object model. So some people will argue that page object model is not a design pattern. So I don't want to go into that argument. I just want to say that page object model is helping us to organize our web elements into different classes and then let us use those methods and objects in our test cases, right? So this page object model for me is doing the work of design pattern. So whether you call it design pattern or not, it is helping us to organize our code better. Okay. So what is fluent pattern? So we'll just quickly see in a framework and understand what is a fluent pattern. So basically, this is intro to design patterns. So if you would like to know more about design patterns, there's a book that these guys wrote, pretty detailed book. Even if you go read some blogs, you'll get some basic ideas, and you can try to implement these design patterns and understand how you can leverage them. And they're really, really powerful. Okay, moving ahead. I'll just, because just seeing these names will not make much sense. So I'll just quickly show you in a framework what we can simply do with a very simple design pattern. Okay, right. Are you able to see the code now? Can someone please give a thumbs? Okay, perfect. Thanks for that. Okay, so I'm just showing a very common framework that is implemented nowadays. Please let me know if the coding font is proper, or shall I increase it? Quick thumbs up would suffice. Okay, perfect. Thanks for that. Okay, so this is a very commonly used framework where we are having these page classes where we'll be having web elements and locators, and then we'll be having some methods that will be performing on the same. So I've not created the locators, I'm just taking an example. Okay, so similarly, we are having one class for handling the driver. We are having pages. Sorry for that. We are having pages like web login page. It will have the web elements, the methods that will be acting on those elements, and things like that. Okay, so also we are having the test cases which are using the same page classes that we created. Okay, so this is a very basic page object model that is getting implemented and used in multiple companies. Okay, Ashutosh says I can maximize screen. Do you mean this maximize, Ashutosh?
I'm saying participants can maximize using the top right button. You can continue.
Okay, okay, thanks.
Participants can maximize using the top right button. If they want to maximize, yeah.
Okay,
You can.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so quickly we will see one design pattern. So here, see, this is a very basic page object model where we are having this login page and we are doing some actions and doing submit. Then we come to home page, we search for some brand, filter, we set the price. Okay, so this is one way of using this. So there's a fluent pattern which says what you do is the methods that you created, just return this. Okay, in all the methods of the class where we are not navigating to another page, just return this is what the same page. Okay, return this. If you are moving to a new page, just return that page object. Okay, what it will do, let me just quickly show here. So let me remove it. Yeah, so again we created an object of the page class that we just created. Now this is the beauty of this fluent pattern. We enter username dot enter password dot submit. So if you compare this code to the code that we were having here, see, this is the simple page object model that we are using here. What the difference is, we are just returning this class object again, so that if you press here dot, you can use the method of the same class. Okay, now what is the benefit is we are getting a concise code. In the 3 line of code, we are able to do the same action in 1 line, and even it is understandable, right? First we enter username, then we enter password, then we submit it. Okay, and if I talk about the next page, same for the home page we did, we are returning this in the methods. Okay, and here let me show you what will happen. Dot search dot set brand. See, so same way you'll be able to use different page object classes. Just return this, and you'll be able to combine or chain as many methods as you want. So the advice is don't chain too many methods, because you should also be able to make sense of it. Otherwise, it can have some 2 3 lines of dot, so that you will not be able to understand. But yeah, for things like, hey, we are entering username, entering password, submitting it. So this is the action. Like we are performing login. Someone says, Kailash says, is this method cascading and chaining? Yeah, so you can also call it method chaining. It's the same concept. So this is a very, very simple Fluent design pattern. Quickly, so here, so this is a normal palm, this is a Fluent palm. That's it. So very, very simple design pattern that you can quickly implement in your framework and just get a very, very concise and small code. So this is also particularly useful where suppose you click on something and it opens a dialogue, and there's some action you are performing on the dialogue, and you have to jump back to the page. So just what you do is you mention, okay, some page dot go to dashboard, perform action dot come back, something like that. So from readability perspective also it makes sense to use this way. Okay, now jumping back. Okay, so this is a pattern we just saw. Let me. Okay, so we saw this fluent pattern, right? So what it says is go with the flow, right? So if you are having some series of actions like action 1, action 2, action 3, and it makes sense to uh, do them together, like a user will do them together, like searching for a product, setting the filters, and selecting a product. So these action normally user will do in a sequence, one after the other. So you can combine these and write it in this form. Okay. Yeah, so use cases whenever there is a chain of actions. Also, if you understand this pattern, it creates a base for understanding the builder design pattern. And for the builder design pattern, once you understand this fluent pattern and you implement it in a builder pattern, that will be really helpful for some test data generation activities that you can do in your project. Okay. How to implement it? Very simple. Your class, your page object method should return this. If they are not navigating to a new page, if they are navigating to new page, you just mention return the new page object from there. Okay, what are the benefits? So we get a concise code, we get increase in readability because the code is getting less in less lines. You can also get away with faster reviews or things like that. Okay, so this was all about the Fluent pattern. Very quickly, very quick to understand, very quick to implement in your project. And so, if you are also planning for your framework, which is already created, so let me just quickly discuss about that also. So consider that your your current framework is following this way. Okay, but now you want to implement the Fluent pattern in some of the page classes. So even if you have implemented the Fluent pattern in these methods, right, you can also use them the way you were using again earlier. So like you can do, let me just quickly copy paste. See, this way also it will continue to work because we are not doing anything with the returned object. It will again work in the same way. So even if you have a framework which is already created, you don't want to cause much problems or you don't want to refactor the code. So don't worry about that. You can implement it. Your earlier created test cases won't be impacted. They will continue to run as it is. Okay, jumping back. Yeah, that was it about the Fluent pattern. And let me move forward. Okay, a quick discussion about the factor design pattern. So we'll not see the implementation because for factory design pattern it might take a lot of our time. I'll just quickly discuss a use case. So you can also see the class diagrams and other things that are present in some of the sites if you want to understand in more detail. One quick example to understand factory design pattern is, suppose there is a class driver factory and we want to run our test cases in multiple browsers. So one thing you can do is, in the same class you can mention if else block, like if browser is Chrome, return the Chrome driver, if browser is Firefox, return the Firefox driver, things like that. The other way you can do is you create a method get driver, you pass an argument browser, based on the browser provided, you return the class for that particular driver. There you can also handle the some of the custom logic that is particular to that driver. So some of the custom options, if you want to provide for Chrome, you can manage them differently, and Firefox also different. The other very useful use case for factory design pattern is if you are handling the execution on multiple platforms. So when I say platforms, they can also be like Windows, Mac, Linux. So if you are doing your automations on different operating systems, then also you can create different factory classes, different platform classes, and based on the platform that you want to run your test case on, you instantiate that particular object using a common factory class. Okay, and if I talk about platforms, when like in devices per se, like if you are executing on, suppose, four device form factors, that is web, mobile web, Android, iOS, there can be tablet and others also. So likewise, what you can do is you can create one common class, and based on the execution parameter, if you want to execute on Android, it should return you the class for Android or things like that. So this factory design pattern will be very very useful in those cases where you have these distinctions, where you have to create the class based on different conditions, the runtime conditions. So because we are discussing about creating the class object, so this is a creational design pattern. So design patterns are also of three types, that is creational, behavioral, and structural. So you can see more how we categorize them. But yeah, whenever we are controlling the creation of object, they are called creational design pattern. And here we are controlling the creation of either Chrome driver or Firefox driver based on our common class. So this is a creational factory design pattern. Yeah. Okay. Let's move forward. Okay. Just I'll not go through each design pattern. So this is the last one, and bear with me. So yeah, these are design builder design pattern. So like I told you, the Fluent design pattern is a base for this one. So once you have learned about Fluent design pattern, what you can do is, so suppose that uh, we are working in a for a company where it deals with selling of the cars. Okay, for us, in our test cases, we are having some hundred or thousand of test cases. For each test case, we need some particular test data. So in one test case, we need there should be a car with GPS and cruise control. This car test data we need for our test case. In another test case, we need this test data. So this whole logic of creating the test data is handled under car builder. Okay. So what we will provide from our test cases, we need a car. It should have GPS and cruise control. What car builder will do, it will take these details and generate only a car with these details. Okay. The same for test case 2, it will create a car with Honda and 360 camera. So wherever you have this kind of condition where your request can have different parameters and you need the object to be created based on different parameters. Just think of it like, let me just quickly write a very basic pseudocode. So suppose that, let me also increase it, public class car. Okay, so this is a public class car. It has a constructor which says, okay, brand, and there's another constructor which says price. Okay, so what we can do is we can create either a car with brand or a car with price. Okay, or we can also have another constructor with a brand and price. So this is what this car builder is doing. It is saying, if you provide me with GPS or cruise control, I will only fill in those details, those attributes of this car class. If you provide brand or 360 camera, so I'll fill only those attribute of this car class and will create a test data for you. So you have to actually implement the logic where you hit the APIs to create the test data or whatever logic you are following. But it acts as your medium between your actual creation of the object and your test cases. So this is a uh, very important use case that can be implemented. And I saw a German framework that I worked on, which used exactly the builder pattern, and it worked like really good in that case. So yeah, if this is not much clear, you can go through more into detail for the builder design pattern, and it is really helpful, and you'll see once you implement it the power of this design pattern. Okay, so yeah, that's it that I wanted to show you. So with the different design patterns, but I wanted to generate the interest, right? Because these are the real problems that we are facing daily in our automation framework or whenever we are coding, right? And developers, if you are in touch with them, they are already using these design patterns in their frameworks and all those things. So we can also leverage these same design patterns in our test automation frameworks. What it can help us, we can upgrade our frameworks, because our test automation frameworks are also growing day by day. More test cases are getting added to them. The code needs to be maintainable, because otherwise we will keep on maintaining the code and we will not be able to get the benefits from the framework that we desired. Okay, we can write high quality code, right? So we have seen the kind of code that I have earlier shown you, where you have pointed the multiple mistakes that were there, right? So we we can ignore, we can improve upon them, and we can uh, avoid the mistakes, and we can write a higher quality code that can perform well over time. And even if multiple people are working on the framework, we should be able to leverage the value of that. Okay, it will boost the efficiency. So if we are creating this reusable things, methods, and these builder methods and things like that, it will boost our efficiencies. Like I said, it will also help you excel in interviews. In my last company, what I remember is that we were having these three levels for SDET interviews, like SDET 1, 2, 3, and design pattern was one of the point that was required if you want to interview for SDET 3 level, if you want to qualify for that. So that says about the importance of it. Also, if you are someone who is preparing for FANG companies, there's a book called CTCI, Cracking the Coding Interview. There's a Google interviewer who has written that book, and she has also mentioned that design pattern is one of the topic in her book. So consider the importance of the topic. The Google interviewer is also telling that, okay, this is important and getting asked in the interviews. Okay, I will also say the people who should avoid, because it can get too advanced early. So if you are just starting to learn coding or automation, it can be too early for you to understand the benefit, because at first it may seem that things are getting complex. Why to make them complex? But with time you can understand the benefit that you can get out of these. Okay, the second thing is, this is not a latest automation trend. So if you are following the latest automation trends that are getting, and with AI in the news and all those things, so I'll not say design pattern is the latest automation trend. No, no one is following this, that you should do this and that. So this is a wisdom that was created in 1994 and still it is relevant. So not a latest trend, but a trend that is relevant, very much relevant. Okay, the last thing is, how do we learn it? So the first thing is, we understand what a problem is solved by a design pattern. Then you try to solve without it. Let's see what happens. So try it with any design pattern, like take Singleton. So try coding it with your knowledge of oops and other concepts. Try coding it and then understand the design pattern, and then again code it with the help of design pattern. Then you will understand, okay, the what is the value that it is generating, that we can get from this design patterns. So yeah, this is it that I wanted to cover in this webinar. And please let me know if there are any questions or queries around the same.
No, so can we also discuss singleton pattern if possible?
Singleton pattern.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just quickly see. I have one slide for that. Okay. Just give me a sec. I'm just stopping my screen. And I hope this is not getting too much if someone is just starting to learn about design pattern.
And we can go ahead and
Okay.
share about singleton also. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Just give me one sec. Okay. Great. I have it handy. Let me just quickly share my screen. Okay. There's a meme that I also use in Singleton pattern. If you guys like watching memes. Okay. So Singleton pattern, what does it say is, if you have a requirement that there can be only one instance of your class, if you have such requirement, then you implement the Singleton pattern. Okay. Now you would say, where do we have such requirements? So one place is, if you are connecting to DB databases, if you are using loggers, if you are handling some resources, so you do not want multiple threads to be creating, or attacking the same resource, or utilizing the DB. You do not want multiple threads to be using the DB at the same time. You want to control it. So whenever there is a requirement, you can use the singleton design pattern. It says that I will only allow creation of one instance. Either you can say one object. Okay. So there are four types. So singleton, I'm sure that most of you have heard about the name singleton. So mostly, if you have seen, there's a early initialization that is getting popular, or you can see in the vlogs as well. So it says that we will create the instance, it is ready in our code, and it will be available throughout the program. The problem with early init is, it is getting the instance is getting generated for every time, whether you need it or not. So that's when uh, an improvement upon it came, that is lazy initialization. We will create the object whenever it is needed. Okay. Now you would say this is proper. Now the object is creating whenever we need it. But the problem is, because we are doing parallel executions in our frameworks, there can be multiple threads that are using uh, the singleton class. So then we have to make it thread safe. So that's when thread safe initialization singleton came into picture. Now, whenever you implement synchronization using multi-threading in Java or any programming language that you've seen, there is a performance overhead because only one thread can execute at a time. So to counter that, there's something called double locking thread safe initialization. Okay, so I'll not show the implementation for today. It can be too much. Just I want to tell you that even in singleton, where it seems very simple, we are just creating one instance, it can also have different stages of implementation as per your requirement, and you can learn about this and use it however you want in your project. So the conditions that are required is it can have only one instance of a class, and there should be a public access to create the instance. The use cases are wherever we are handling DB utilities, the loggers, the file resource handlers, and there can be more things related to resources only. So as I've just given an intro to singleton design pattern and what it can do, but when you implement it, you can understand what are the things that we can really do with this, and how we can also optimize it or customize it as per our need. Okay. Uh, yeah, that's it about the singleton pattern.
Got it. Just a follow-up questions. The constructor should be private in singleton design pattern, or how is it in
Yes,
general?
yes. The constructor should be private because that's the only part where we are creating the instance that can control it. So, like I said, I'm not showing the implementation because it can go in
Yeah,
stages and can be too much for now.
got it. I think let's spend the last 10 minutes for taking other questions also.
Yeah.
So this is a question from Bruno has asked a lot of questions. And folks, if you have questions, feel free to use the Q&A tab. I'll take some questions right away. This is a question from Bruno. Should the POM code live together with the SUT components or inside some end-to-end E2E folder?
POM code live together with the SUT components or inside the E2E folder. Okay, so what I've generally seen is that if you are using the let me also show you the code. Okay, yeah. So what I've normally seen is in the projects we normally use if you are comfortable with Maven, and I've seen Maven structure. So normally in Maven the page classes are in src main Java, and the test all the test cases are in this test Java folder. So all the tests we maintain, I've normally seen, is getting maintained here, and all the other page object things, they are inside this pages, where we are having different page object classes where you will reside your web elements and all those things. For SUT, I do not understand what you mean by SUT, but I hope that clarifies.
Got it. I think the next question is from Sudhir. Again, is there any design pattern for parallel executions?
For parallel executions, design pattern, I think you can take help of some design patterns to do parallel execution. Okay, so let me just quickly come back to the design patterns. Okay, so suppose that uh, if parallel, you mean like I want to execute same test case in three different form factor devices in parallel, right? So factory design pattern will also help in that case, because same test case can be run parallelly in three different form factor or devices. So what I'm trying to say is the design patterns can help you in parallel execution also, but there's no specific design pattern that is for doing the parallel execution or helping or optimizing that. But I think you can use these knowledge or try out with different design pattern and see if you can leverage their knowledge in parallel execution as well.
Got it. Again, the next question is from, I think Bruno has a lot of questions. There was one question in chat also. Please recommend some resources or book for better understanding of design patterns. I think you
Uh,
mentioned some, but if you can type some in the chat, it will help there.
right. I'll just quickly mention the name. It is very good book. Okay, this is the official book that was written by four authors. Uh, because of these four authors, they are called Gang of Four Patterns or GOF patterns. So you can go through this book and learn about these design patterns. But first, I would say um, try out some patterns on your own. Read through some blogs. There's a really good source. Uh, yeah, this one. I came to know just previous week when I was preparing for some content. Really good source. Before even trying out the book, you can go through it. Yeah,
Got it.
you
I
can
think the
use this.
next, let's say the next question. This is from, again, Bruno. I'll take this question. Uh, what is data-driven design pattern? The data-driven testing pattern. Sorry.
Data-driven testing pattern. So just you have to keep in mind that whenever these design patterns were creating, they were not having testing in mind. So like someone asked about parallel execution also. So I would say for uh, there's no specific pattern for using the data driven all those things, but what you can do is you can learn about these patterns and try to use them. If you are using trying to do data driven testing, try to fit some pattern, which pattern can fit in this case. So this way you can leverage this. But I would not say that uh, this pattern will be only used for data driven testing pattern, because they were not created keeping testing or test framework in mind. They were created for programming in general.
Got it. Abhishek has a question. In builder design pattern, we have multiple constructors in our class. He's asking this question to you.
No. So I just gave that example that suppose you have different constructor in your class and you are using them to create your object. That was an example, and sorry if that was misleading, but yeah, that was an example of a class with multiple constructors. But what builder pattern in builder class will do is it will have different methods, and it will be creating and using the other classes that are also created. So it's not one class. There can be multiple classes also. It will leverage those classes to create the object that you want. So just consider it as a medium between you and other classes that will talk with those classes and generate whatever you want.
Got it. I think we should take the last question here.
Yeah.
This is from Timba about, when should I not use a fluent pattern, and what about the maintenance of code with the fluent pattern?
When you should not use. So I think for the fluent pattern, if so one place I would say that it can create problem is when you are overusing it. So like I said, if you create this chain of methods like 10 or 15 methods like dot click, dot login, dot this, dot that. So if you created this 10 or 15 line of code just doing dot, so it can create a mess also, right? So otherwise, if you just combine two three actions together, and use it, it can create a readable, very readable short code that easy to review also. So this way it can be helpful, but yeah, if you overuse it, that can create a problem.
Got it. I think that is much. I think that's it. We should end this here. Thank you so much, Anish, for doing it. It means a lot to us, and thank you for all of you who tuned in this this webinar. I saw close to about 80 people tuning.
Thank you guys, and it's great you are sacrificing your sleep or relaxing time
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much.
to
Bye,
learning.
bye,
Yeah,
bye.
bye.